AI is no longer something that you will find in sci-fi. It's a powerful presence, hitting classrooms, lecture halls, and everywhere. It's something you and I are fully aware of. It's something big that never occurred until the internet. And if you're a student, you might have used ChatGPT for quick answers. And these tools are fundamentally changing how we learn as workers, students, and how we actually do research these days. Basically, AI tools are revolutionizing discovery and also probably creating some ethical gray areas, which we will talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about the fascinating and sometimes confusing world of AI in academia. We're going to get some insightful perspective on the impact on how AI may impact students, research, and the very future of education, and how we might become more AI literative. And in today's conversation, I have the pleasure of introducing Moutaz Haddara, who is the founding director of Innovation and Digitalization of Enterprise and Society Laboratory, IDEAS for short, and as the head of PhD program in Applied Information Technology at Christiania University here in Oslo. And not only that, he is also professor in information system. I have known him personally for over 9 years, and he is someone who truly is able to connect the dots, both in the theoretical mindset, but also real-world aspects. His influence stretches across the continent. He is a visiting professor at top schools from Netherlands to Egypt, even as far as Malaysia. I have not been there myself, so I envy him for that. And this isn't it just about the questions we're going to raise today. He is also a popular advisor for tech organizations and even governments. So I invite you all to start a humble conversation around AI in academia, the critical ethical consideration, and the essential skill sets students as well as researchers required. And with that, welcome, Moutaz.
Thank you very much, Victor. It's very nice to be here, and thank you very much for the very flattering introduction. It's always great to talk to you about these kind of topics. I know it's a topic of interest for you. You have written about it, also a book also. So it's always fascinating to discuss technology and how technology is transforming societies and the industries as well.
Thank you, Moutaz. Very kind. And yeah, it's always fascinating and interesting to talk to you as well on this topic. So let's just set the mood here and introduce our listeners and viewers of your own experience as a person with AI technology. What is your usage of AI? But maybe just briefly explain the difference of AI. There are like, so our general listeners and viewers might understand when we talk about AI, what do we mean and how do we differentiate between Gen AI, narrow AI, and then the aspects of the usage maybe?
Well, great. I mean, this is something that has a lot of terms and a lot of definitions. So basically, we have been working with data analytics. If we look at the big umbrella, analytics for a long time, actually before the internet. So, like my experience, I've been teaching for more than 25 years, and I have been teaching data mining courses before AI was a thing, or before it became a very common topic to discuss. Basically, AI is a big umbrella that includes a wide range of technologies, techniques, and algorithms, usually in order to be able to stimulate or simulate what we call aspects of human intelligence. They are based on what we call rule-based systems and machine learning algorithms, like also computer vision, NLP, and so on. Then, or generative AI is actually a subset of this big umbrella, which is a new subset that we haven't been working with earlier, and discuss that probably later in more detail. But it's a class of these AI models that are designed basically to generate content. And the content, as you may know, could be text, could be video, could be audio, could be different types, could be computer code, could be anything, which is also still based on patterns learned from large data sets. And rather than just using artificial intelligence techniques to predict or to classify, this one creates something that we didn't previously have or exist. Let's say, I mean, generating new content. But
Content. It's I would say it's something. Let me just go back and let me grab the listeners and viewers mindset. What Moutaz here is describing is kind of just exemplifies. For instance, most of you have, as I introduced with ChatGPT, OpenAI, you have Bard, you have Gemini, you have also Copilot. They are definition of something more of a generative. But you have also Sora, which recently was released by guys of OpenAI, which by text input, as Moutaz mentioned, can give you a video. And you have also Midjourney, previously before AI released Sora, which was able to give you beautiful pictures or photographs or images based on the inputs of the text you prompted into these tools. Basically, that's, if I understood you correctly. Yeah.
totally correct. So these are applications of generative AI, let's say.
Yep. Good. Let's continue. And have you, what sort of applications do you use in your general, profession? Do you use any of these tools?
Definitely. I use a lot of gen tools. I use a lot of data analytics tools in general in my projects, in my research, in my data analysis. But if you are speaking specifically about generative AI, definitely
Yes.
I'm using generative AI in a lot of tasks, which could be tedious tasks, could be, repetitive tasks, could be non-complex tasks. Discuss. So I use it to make tasks in my research, in my curriculum development. I use it also to get feedback, even on some of the text I use in whatever context. So I use it definitely a lot.
And you mentioned you're using it a lot, Moutaz. What is your initial impression of AI as it's now? Because if we see it's recently new, it just started from 2-3 years. OpenAI just released in ChatGPT, and it's getting massive increase. The models just become better and better for each year or each month, I would say. What is your initial impression using these tools for work and personal?
Having been working with these systems for a long time and teaching them and being in projects and so on, I think generative AI is fascinating. I'm very impressed with the work that has been done in a very short time and the advancements that are happening and DeepSeek and all of that. And also it raises a lot of questions and concerns. There are lots of unanswered questions as well. And definitely my impression is that it's capable of creating new text as new material, as we discussed, also connecting different concepts together in a way that maybe could be difficult for human beings, or let's say it can help in creativity a bit as well, to connect two different concepts, as I mentioned, that could be difficult for a human to think about what's the relationship of them and so on. Anyway, so it's very impressive, but again, it has a lot of issues. So definitely, as I mentioned, I use generative AI in my work in different types of tasks, especially in research a lot. But this doesn't mean that you should be not working with it cautiously. It has a lot of issues that has to be really taken care of, which we'll discuss later as well. Rely on it as of now, at least.
Yes, let's discuss that biased issue and ethical aspect later in the show. But that's a huge relevant point which you're pointing out there, Moutaz, that there are some concerns. Also, the black box where we don't know how it predicts and the data is being used, and how it's actually thinking. And we'll go
alarming, or what is even more concerning, let's say, is we don't know which type of data it got trained on.
Yes.
So this is also a big concern because again, the models like really decide, or your results are based on some statistical analysis on the training data sets. So again, this is also something which is a black box, as you mentioned, for us. So again, we have to be cautious with it, and we'll discuss the different types of.
Well, yes. Let's go into the AI and academia a bit. I recently read a new survey from 2024, Global AI Student Survey. It's about students and AI, which was conducted in 16 various countries and among 3,839 master and bachelor students. And in that, it turns out that tons of them are already using tools like ChatGPT for schoolwork. Like 69% use it for searching up information. 42% use it for checking their grammar. 33% use it for summarizing big article and research paper. 28 use it for paraphrasing research documents and to create a master's thesis. And 24 use it to create new drafts for a master or bachelor thesis. So, with that in mind, the background I gave you, how do you see AI transforming student learning and engagement with academic content with these figures I mentioned? Because do you think it's positive or negative?
Well, I think AI is revolutionizing education, to be honest. I mean, I see the point and I understand the point of organizations or institutions, education institutions who are trying to fight generative AI and the use of generative AI in their education environment and so on. There's no point. It's like fighting the internet. We have to find ways how to live with that and put it in a kind of a framework that we understand really what are the capabilities of these applications, what are the strengths of these applications, how these applications can be used. So I would say it's transforming learning and engagement, specifically generating interactive content, as you mentioned. One of the major problems in learning environments is the pace of teaching. So the pace of teaching usually is on the average pace, and you miss out a lot. You miss the people who are advanced. You miss the people who are beyond this pace. So basically, learning at your own pace, stressing on the things that you are really weak at, is a very important thing. So I think in the future it will play a major role. I know we all know it plays already a major role, but I mean it's something that we cannot escape, and we have to find ways how to utilize it and put it in its correct frame. Having said that, I'm not saying that this will replace teachers. Also, the COVID era taught us, at least in my experience and my institution experience, is that there is no substitute for social interaction in the class. Again, on the side, it will be like your private tutor that you better and strengthen yourself in the things that you lack and so on. So I think in all cases in academia, from a student perspective, it will be a tool that will be used and has to be used. So definitely it helps also in making difficult or abstract concepts more visualized or more easier and so on. So it has a lot of different type of, I think, benefits, and these will be even more amplified in future.
Good. Let me just go a bit and say, recently I had a pleasure to interview an American CEO and entrepreneur, and he is launching an avatar AI where he could imagine myself, but recording 2 hours of my speech pattern, how I thought, how I think, plug me into the internet, and I would be looking the same. So you would basically see me in 3 different roles: one as a project manager, one as a student, and one as a podcast host or a social media persona. And we came to discussing exactly what you said. And he mentioned that he did a project for a high-class consultancy firm where he made an avatar from the best of the consultants, like the top one, because they couldn't be everywhere, to educate and coach other people. Uh, Back to what you mentioned, that human connection or the human relations can't be uh, elaborated or it can't be gone. I see a trend, especially from the Gen Z and the generation which is coming alpha now, that there might be more and more acceptance to talking to AI rather than a actual person. That's the trend I am seeing. I might be wrong, but that's what the research is telling me, and that's what the facts are. Now, given that, given this rapid change, how do you see this change the aspect of people having a job? Like you mentioned, our jobs are safe. It won't be changing anytime soon. But given this technology, would you see it replacing it, or would you see it working together with the best version of ourselves? If you understand
Well,
what I mean.
very, very good question. I mean, first, I didn't say our jobs are safe. My at least impression that it's still we will need the human touch, we will need the human conversations. But this doesn't mean that avatars, as you mentioned, and personal assistants might be capable of providing better even discussions. Sure about the future, but what I can say is that, at least from my perspective, and based on a lot of readings that I read related to AI and the future of AI as well, I totally agree with the concepts of what we call co-intelligence or intelligence, or what also in research is called hybrid intelligence. We have to learn how to use it and live with it. We will
Mm,
have to live with it. You cannot live without it, and we will be left out if you are not living and using them.
mm,
So we'll have to find ways how to use them in our day-to-day life or educational or whatever context. But at the same time, we will need the human judgment. So I think the future is working on both because it has a lot of issues. Again, as I mentioned, at least so far, these systems. So the human intelligence or the human judgment, or what we call the interplay between human judgment and these kind, let's say, system judgment or algorithm judgment or Gen AI judgment or whatever, it would be
mm,
great to bridge that and use both of them, like
mm,
coexist together. So I
mm,
think the classroom will not disappear, at least from my perspective, at least for the near future.
mm,
Uh, but there will be a lot of tools that can make the class more interactive, more engaging, better.
mm.
I mean, learning environment, and help also different students in different paces or different knowledge points. But so I think it will be integrated in learning, definitely, in many cases. Again, to totally replace us, I'm not sure. However, at the same time, if we will be replaced at least from the lecturing part, I'm not sure that we'll be replaced in at least curating the materials, at least judging the pedagogical benefit of the material. So again, I see still the human judgment or this co-intelligence concept is a big part of the future of AI. So I
Okay.
think coexist.
Let, yeah, cool with it. Let me go into that, what you mentioned. We won't be eradicated, luckily, many of us. But I also read that one skill set which pops up on LinkedIn on one out of five job descriptions is AI literacy skill or prompting is very like prompt engineering as a proficiency with tools like ChatGPT or Copilot. They are becoming more and more relevant and important. And now we're talking about skills and relevance. Since 2023, the number of AI literacy skills have added by LinkedIn member has increased by 177%. Okay, that's a lot. So my question here, what skill or knowledge should students and researchers alike, professors and everyone alike, develop to stay relevant in this rapid evolving age of AI?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I mean, it has a lot of answers. So if you are speaking about hard science and so on, I would
Mhm,
say, I mean, statistics, mathematics, data science, domain expertise, all of these will be important for future advancements of AI and future jobs of AI.
mhm,
On the softer side, people without technical backgrounds or technical education as you mentioned, prompt engineering will be a very, very important part. We see it now already. Prompt engineers, how to communicate with the generative AI or the chatbot or whatever, it is a very important thing. And I've done tests myself. I've read a lot of books about it as well, or at least literature and books related to this topic. But I've also tested that myself. I mean, basically, how you ask the question plays a big role on the answer and the contextuality of the answer. Like, let's say, for example, when you say create a review on this piece of text, review this piece of text and give some feedback, you might get a lot different result if you say, imagine yourself as an academic, a professor in technology that is reviewing, for example, a piece of text of a student in a project, and you give it more context and then ask it to review it again. It's different and maybe more factual based and so on. So prompt engineering is engineering is a big thing. I totally agree. And in the future also we'll discuss that, but we also have a lot of technologies that helps us to reduce some of the issues related to generative AI, specifically results or generation, what we call augmentation. So also people who are able to fine-tune the algorithms or to fine-tune the chatbots, the large language models, people who can test, all of that will be needed. So prompt engineering, let's say it would be the least skill, I mean, or the last hope. If then I would say you cannot run from statistics, mathematics, and all the data science, machine learning, and many other areas. But again, prompt engineering definitely is, in the short term at least, it will be a very hot thing.
I want to go back to the prompt engineering because it raises an interesting question. With a guest I recently had on our show, he mentioned something interesting, which you also kind of touched, that depending on how you prefer or write your text, the AI sort of is a servant of you. It tries to satisfy you. So he made an example that he wrote something and he was not pleased with it, and then he wrote that this is not good. I need that, and the ChatGPT and the Bard, for instance, or Gemini said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean this. I will rephrase it for your content." That is kind of interesting because we were talking about a bit about bias afterwards, but that makes me think that the AI, in a sense, is not biased after all. If you can, by prompting the right words, as you said, the right sentences, you can actually get the results which you actually want, but it's not essentially the right answer. Am I?
You're touching on the point. So the chatbot is trying to satisfy you with an answer. If you don't like the answer and you would like another answer, no problem. I mean, can generate infinite number almost of answers that will satisfy you. But this doesn't mean that the answer is precise or correct. So this is, again, one of the big issues that we are suffering from now in generative AI, which, by the way, has a lot of impact on academia as well, because when I see, for example, I review papers for international journals and conferences and so on, I can tell, or at least I can suspect some parts are written with generative AI because I see a lot of text, looks nice, makes a bit of sense, but really there's no material in there, or doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't have to be factual as well. So it looked nice, maybe could make sense, but it doesn't mean that it's actually true. So we have to be very careful about that. And again, it will satisfy you, but doesn't mean that the answer is correct or you should use it right away. It's us back to one of the major problems that are we facing now with generative AI, which is hallucinations. I wouldn't look at it, as you mentioned, that it's not biased because it can be flexible and answering the way you want. Take care, because bias, I mean, means something else as well in statistical context. So I would say potentially there is bias definitely in these systems, and discuss why and the different types of bias. But
let's park that for the next section. But let's go into another interesting article which I read. We mentioned about generative AI able to make new content from scratch. I read a recent article inside higher education where a UCL history professor created an entire history textbook using AI. And as a professor and a representative of academia as yourself, what are your reflections on the implication of using AI to develop educational content, like, for instance, a textbook, for instance, in your field of IT? If you were to just create something from scratch using AI, how do you think it could influence teaching and learning in education in the future?
I mean, it's fascinating that this professor managed to do that. I didn't read it myself, so I cannot judge. But again, I highly doubt, if I'm 100 almost percent sure, that this professor had to curate the data or the text in the book. So books definitely, I would say, for example, that these generative AI are better in clear data generation. Like, I mean, when you are looking at historical events which are very well documented, you are looking at a code database or code base, for example, for software and so on, and you want to try to generate code based on this base, would be
Like
generations. But again, to make sure that the book is reliable, the information is correct, the dates are not confused, the dates are correct, the incidents are correct, no misconceptions from the generative AI. I mean, it needs a lot of curation. So again, I cannot, at least at this point in time, I cannot really trust generated text without the human judgment at this point in time, at least.